What's up guys, Jesse and Melissa with Adventure Endeavor here, and we're here to talk about why 3500 sucks.
And why we bought a 4500, which is right back here. Obviously, we have a gigantic truck. That means something else gigantic is going to be coming into our lifestyle. More to come on that later. First of all, we want to do a quick tour of the truck, and then we want to tell you why we bought a 4500 over a 3500. This is a new to us 2018 Ram 4500 cab and chassis model. It does have a four-wheel drive. It does have an aftermarket flatbed on it. It's got 135,000 miles, which we felt like was pretty good considering it's Cummins and the RVing transmission. Everything's super heavy duty. Let's start with this right here. Let's start with this weird bumper. It's got a weird bumper because this vehicle used to be a Utah State incident vehicle, meaning it was kind of like the Caltrans. If there was an accident or they needed to divert the flow of traffic, this truck was here, and it used to have a massive construction utility box on the back. So they had this bumper because, believe it or not, they would push cars and or vehicles out of the road with this truck. It's got nice rubber bumpers here, this brush guard. We debated getting rid of it, but to be honest, we often camp in areas where there are a lot of deer and very dark areas as well, very remote areas. So we might just get used to this thing. We might just let it grow on us. So this cab and chassis, basically they come factory from Ram with no bed. It's just bare frame rails. But basically the cab, the crew cab, is the exact same as our other Ram 2500 and 3500s. Very much the same. Some small differences. You'll see a fender flare, and that's because the axle is wider. We'll get into more of that later. And then this flatbed here is a CM flatbed. This is a flatbed that was used. You can tell it's kind of beat up. We have some other things that we're gonna do to it down the road to make it a little more practical for us. It's got a bumper hitch here. It does have a recessed goose pocket in there, which there's a ball in there.
It's currently covered by our water bag, don't mind that.
That is our giant water bag. We got nice boxes here. Obviously it's a dually in the back, and overall, that's it. Let's take a quick tour of the inside. You may be confused, but don't be confused. This is the new 4500, or as Lincoln would call it, the dump truck, AKA the big one, or the dually. So you're gonna be hearing those names. When we refer to the Great White Buffalo, our other white crew cab Ram, we will refer to it as the Ram, or the Great White Buffalo, or the 2500. So it might be confusing. The inside is almost exactly the same. One main difference is this truck has an electronic four-wheel drive actuator, which I'm totally fine with because we are not using four-wheel drive as much. It's just in case, you know, we are in some sand or something like that. We're not off-roading this truck. Our other truck has a manual shifter down here for the four-wheel drive. It's got a built-in trailer brake controller, and overall, it's a very basic, I think it's like a SLT. It's a work truck. It actually has rubber freaking floors, which with kids, rubber floors are great. Now I want to talk about why your 3500 sucks. I'm just kidding. Your 3500 does not suck. A 3500 dually or single rear wheel is a great truck. I kind of just want to talk about the differences between a 4500 and why we chose a 4500. First and foremost, one of the main reasons we chose a 4500 was this right here, but mostly this. So the front axles in the 4500 are a little bit wider than a 3500. And what that gives you is that gives you an almost 10% more turning radius. So this truck, believe it or not, considering it's bigger, actually turns better than a 3500 dually. And that for me is a big deal. We get in all these crazy spots. It's nice to have a really good turning radius. Here would be my kind of second reason is a 4500 is just overkill for what we plan on doing with it. As you can tell, this rear end here, this is kind of like a dump truck or a semi truck. It is a massive, massive rear end. And this is where your power comes from. This is where your gear ratio comes from. And this right back here, these leaf springs, this rear end, this is doing almost all the work for what you're carrying. So it's just super overkill. And a 3500 will get the job done in most instances, but I wanted to have an overkill truck. Just look at the height of the frame rail. These frame rails are super tall. I'd say almost a foot if I had to guess. I'm not super into technical specs, but basically go look at your 3500 compared to this frame rail. It's gonna be much, much smaller. Like I said, more heavy duty, higher carrying capacity, way overkill, and that's what we wanted. Another super crucial reason why we went with a 4500 is the payload. Obviously, if this thing can haul me, it can haul pretty much anything. The payload in your typical 3500 dually is roughly 4,000 to 5,000 pounds. And that is all dependent on the specs and the different cab configurations, whatever options you have. That's just a rough estimate. Payload on one of these is 6,500 to 7,000 pounds, same thing, all depending on your configuration. Here's the thing, if you get a pretty big, heavy fifth wheel, if you do, and then you throw in, let's say 4 passengers, maybe you have an auxiliary diesel tank like this one, you put some tools under the back seat, you are more than likely maxing out your 3500 dually. I'll tell you right now, pin weights on a lot of these trailers are super high, especially toy haulers. They're 3,500, some of them are 4,000 pound pin weights. So you're gonna be maxing out your dually, believe it or not. As you can tell back here, we have a massive 265 gallon water bladder. We do a lot of boondocking. We want to be able to roll in here. Let's say maybe we happen to get a fifth wheel or something like that that has a heavy pin weight, and we want to carry this water bladder full time. A 3500 just is not going to do it in the long run. We wanted to be over trucked. We've had our 2500 in the past, and we have towed trailers that were probably too heavy for it. And we just didn't want to go through that, and we didn't want to chance it with this new truck. So we went big, and so far we don't regret it. I would say the one con of a 4500 is the fact that when it's empty, it rides like a dump truck. So if you're only gonna have one vehicle like a lot of RVers do, a 3500 might be a better option for you. But if you want to tow and not worry about your payload, a 45 or 5500 is probably the way to go.
Yeah, I just want to really drive home that point that the dump truck really does ride like a dump truck when there's no weight on it.
It's great. Puts the baby right to sleep.
So rough. It does. It bounces him right to sleep. So that's a pro, I guess. Yeah, so we're gonna have definitely a bunch of mod videos coming down the line for this truck. We're still gonna be running both white Rams. So the 4500 and the 2500. 2500 is now our chase vehicle.
Scout vehicle.
Scout vehicle.
Daily driver.
Daily driver, extra storage. My office mainly is one of the bigger things that we're currently gonna be using it for. We got the truck camper on there still. And then, so hopefully we'll also be taking it on, shorter weekend camping trips in more remote spots. That's part of the reason we got it.
And one of the reasons we weren't worried about having a 4500 is because we knew we were gonna have a second vehicle. Like I said, if you're only doing one vehicle, probably a 3500. And if you don't carry a big water bladder, probably a 3500. But we just didn't want to worry because we've worried before in the past. And it drives the stress up and it's not fun.
If you've been following our channel for a while, you know that we've been through many, many, many iterations of different setups, and this is just what we decided was going to work best.
It's kind of sad. It's kind of sad.
This next chapter of life. Yeah.
It's kind of sad. The Ram is being retired from hauling. It's not a hauler anymore.
No, not anymore.
Well, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them. I'm not super technical on the specs of frame sizes and this and that. I just know that this truck is like too much, but that's what I wanted.